A red dragon soars over a burning city, a symbol of the monsters that prey on humanity. To face these creatures, a mage and a knight are presented with only one path forward. Harnessing the mana flowing through the air, the mage creates intricate magical circles with a staff. This is the path of the mage, a choice to create supernatural miracles through immense power. Streaks of pure energy slam into the dragon, a direct assault from the mage's powerful spell. Enraged, the beast lets out a ferocious roar, its massive jaws snapping in defiance. But its fiery counterattack meets the spell head-on, erupting in a blinding flash of energy. On the ground, a group of mages recoil in shock as the spell fails to stop the threat. As the dragon dives to attack, a knight leaps into the air, sword aimed true. This second path is revealed, forging sword aura within the body to achieve superhuman feats. His blade slams into the dragon's tough hide, the sheer force cracking its impenetrable scales. A grimace of pure determination crosses his face, for a swordsman can only choose one path. This focused strike pierces the beast's chest, causing a devastating internal explosion. A massive fireball consumes the creature as it plummets from the sky, a victory for the knight. But a young man watches in horror, realizing choosing one path means being powerless in other ways. Amidst the embers of battle, a lone swordsman stands over the defeated guards, his past flashing before him, a memory of unleashing immense power against a great foe, a time when he soared through the sky to face a colossal red dragon, this beast roaring in absolute fury as he prepared his attack. His determined form reflected in its massive golden eye, a memory of a battle that would ultimately define his entire path. In the present, the villagers he just saved stare in utter disbelief. For he had mastered the path of the sword to become a true hero. This legendary swordsman is none other than Master Oscar, hailed by the townsfolk as Oscar the Sword Saint, who never expected his arrival, and though they offer their heartfelt thanks for saving them, Oscar simply turns away, his expression distant and unreadable, leaving the rescued villagers to comfort one another in the aftermath. He recalls his life's choice, the path of the sword over magic, reaching the pinnacle. Yet he watches another man show a young girl the simple beauty of magic he forsook. This dark-haired warrior reflects on his journey, his gaze filled with a quiet resolve. He remembers becoming a hero, a man that villagers and families looked up to. Young children saw him as a legend, their eyes wide with pure adoration. And yet this public admiration was not the dream that fueled him from the start. For his own childhood was defined by a deep, unwavering admiration for magic itself. That path led him to this desolate mountain range, gripping a simple wooden sword for training. With immense focus, he practices a single, powerful downward swing again and again. Two of his students watch this relentless routine from a distance, completely captivated. This male student explains this training is a daily ritual, revealing a shocking truth about the land. This entire hollow was once flat ground, carved out by his sword over years of practice. He explains that with each passing day, the earth itself gave way to his master's power, leaving the female student completely stunned by the sheer scale of his dedication. Her companion's question breaks the silence, pointing to the letter she is clutching. Remembering her purpose for being there, she finally calls out to him, "Master." She rushes forward with an urgent message in hand, a letter from the imperial capital. Seeing his master's expression, the apprentice nervously asks if the letter contains bad news. But the master just sighs, annoyed they want to award him a medal for slaying the dragon. His apprentice laughs, remarking that only his master would complain about such a high honor. Uninterested in petty politics, the master explains he just wants a place to train properly. A smile spreads across the apprentice's face, realizing his master's true love is the sword. His master's gaze drifts away, a thoughtful expression taking over his features. He then quietly admits that he does not particularly love the sword at all, revealing he only chose this path because his father, a sword master, commanded it. This revelation leaves his young student completely stunned and speechless. This master confirms it was never a path he chose for himself, but the apprentice confesses he is jealous of the master's innate talent for the sword, explaining that he joined the academy by choice but now fears he lacks any real aptitude. His doubt runs so deep he has even considered abandoning his path to become a mage. A fundamental rule of this world is then explained. Both mages and swordsmen channel power through circuits. However, these two powers oppose each other, and attempting to mix them causes the body to collapse. His master's words weigh heavily on the young apprentice, a choice that defines a life. Oscar offers simple advice: stop worrying and just keep swinging the sword, which fills the young student with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. But later that night, the master lies awake, unable to find any peace himself. He admits his own hypocrisy, knowing the advice was for his student, not for him. This apprentice's words about his talent for the sword echo in his mind, making him wonder what kind of talent he might have possessed for magic instead. He scoffs at his own hollow advice, a bitter irony filling the quiet room, when suddenly his eyes snap open, sensing an immediate and violent threat. An explosion rips through the night, shattering the tranquility of their mountain retreat. Outside, a building burns fiercely as a group of cloaked individuals watch the destruction. Their leader, a mage with a twisted staff, grins from beneath his dark hood, One of them questions if they have captured their target but is warned to stay alert. Just then, the apprentice leaps through the flames, sword drawn and ready to fight. Realizing instantly he is facing not just mages but highly skilled ones, a group of robed assailants appears, their leader clearly identified among them. At their leader's command, the mages unleash a coordinated fire spell, but Oscar stands his ground, his expression hardening as he prepares to counter. He swiftly dodges the incoming magical assault, weaving through the deadly energy. Closing the distance in an instant, his blade meets the leader's staff with a crash. A sudden realization hits him, his eyes widening in complete shock. For the leader has a hostage, warning Oscar that one wrong move will be fatal. This young girl trembles in fear, trapped in the villain's grasp. Demanding to know their motive, Oscar is told they have come for his life. He is completely baffled, unable to recall any enemies who would want him dead. With a sinister smile, the leader insists that Oscar's memory is simply failing him, revealing their true motive, to eliminate him for his forbidden dual talent. This accusation leaves Oscar utterly confused as he has no idea what they mean. Uncaring, the mage prepares a final spell declaring his death is certain. But just as the attack is about to launch, a familiar voice cries out his title. Held hostage by a hooded assailant, the apprentice shouts that he is ready to die. His master's gaze sharpens, taking in the dire situation with cold focus. Oscar stands unfazed by the threat, simply acknowledging his student's resolve. This hooded mage mockingly agrees, preparing to grant the boy's death wish with a spell. But Oscar smirks, revealing their plan has already failed and warning them not to underestimate his apprentice. This attacker's confidence shatters, realizing he has been completely outplayed. A volley of razor-sharp ice crystals now hangs in the air, aimed directly at the master, and the deadly projectiles rain down upon him in a lethal barrage. One of the hooded assailants watches the attack, certain of their victory, while the lead mage scoffs at the master's apparent sacrifice to save his student. Yet Oscar stands firm, pierced by countless shards of ice, an incomprehensible feat of endurance. Believing their mission is complete, the mages begin their retreat, leaving the two for dead. But a brilliant pillar of light erupts, revealing the impossible, a sword saint with magical talent. His apprentice rushes to his side, desperately asking why he took such a fatal blow for him. Despite his grievous wounds, Oscar simply smiles, echoing his student's earlier words of resolve. This apprentice cries out in despair, declaring he is prepared to die. He remembers his master bleeding out, apologizing for his own weakness. Overwhelmed by guilt and sorrow, the student breaks down completely. But even then, Oscar offered a faint, reassuring smile through the pain. His final regret was clear. If he were a mage, he could have changed this outcome. As his life fades, his last thoughts drift to the one path he never took. He admits to himself that he always, truly wanted to use magic. All the accolades and sword training were just ways to avoid that simple truth. Nothing ever compared to the wonder he felt for magic as a young boy. Suddenly, a hand reaches up through a canopy of trees toward a brilliant light. Oscar finds himself standing whole and uninjured in a sun-drenched forest. He touches his chest in utter disbelief, knowing he should be dead. Looking around in confusion, he tries to comprehend this impossible situation. Then he recognizes the view below as his own hometown Eisen village. He recalls the moment of his death, believing he should have perished back then. Kneeling in the grass, Oscar discovers something unexpected lying beside his sword. His eyes widen in disbelief at the sight before him. In his hands are two sealed letters, invitations to the world's two great academies. A tradition is explained. At 15, all youths receive a choice between two paths. One letter for the path of the sword, the other for the path of magic. Staring at his own younger reflection, he clutches the fateful letter that defined his life, and the impossible realization dawns on him. He has somehow returned to the past. He is 14 years old again, before the sword became his entire identity. When a familiar shadow falls over him, a presence he never expected to feel again. It is his father, stern and imposing, calling him by name. Looking up in shock, Oscar recognizes the man who forced the sword upon him, which means his father, long dead in his original timeline, is standing right here. This man immediately scolds him for neglecting his training, accusing him of arrogance. But Oscar knows it was not arrogance that distracted him from the sword. It was his secret, burning desire to pursue the path of magic instead. He remembers his father, a renowned sword master who trained many disciples. As his son, Oscar was forced to learn the sword from a very young age. But one day, his training was interrupted by the incredible sight of someone using magic. This sparkling display left the young boy completely captivated by its sheer beauty, yet his father's face contorted with rage, calling magic a pathetic craft for the weak. He declared that Oscar's destiny was to wield a sword and nothing else, a command that haunted him even to the moment of his death, a life filled with regret. But now he stands alive and whole, a second chance laid out before him. Gripping a wooden sword, he vows he has had enough of dying like that, and in this new life he will finally follow the path he has always wanted. His thoughts are broken by an instructor demanding to know why he is not training. Oscar calmly replies that he has already faced the sword enough for an entire lifetime. This strange and defiant answer leaves the instructor completely bewildered, suddenly unleashing a powerful aura that summons countless magical swords around him, and the overwhelming power strikes him down along with every other student in the area. A memory surfaces of his father testing him with a barrage of glowing swords, while a rival watches in disbelief, shocked by Oscar's unwavering calm. Yet our boy stands completely unfazed, his expression serene and confident, earning a look of quiet approval from the man who trained him. His father acknowledges his son's dedication was not just for show, placing a firm, approving hand on Oscar's shoulder. He then promises that with continued effort, the guild will one day be his. This other students can only stare, their faces a mix of shock and envy, but his father simply turns away, a subtle smile of satisfaction on his face, leaving Oscar to quietly process the immense weight of his legacy. Suddenly, a friendly hand claps him on the back, pulling him from the memory. It is his old academy friends, who confess they waited for breaks just to see him. A gray-haired rival smirks, offering to teach him the sword once more, and Oscar recalls how these familiar faces were always around in his youth, often serving as the sparring partners his father had arranged for him. He recalls his time at the Sword Academy, ostracized by the other students. His classmates took out their frustrations on him under the guise of training. One particular student, a silver-haired rival, always singled him out for a duel. This rival taunts him with a smirk, his sword already glowing with a powerful aura, acknowledging the massive power gap that pure technique could never overcome. Oscar simply turns his back on the fight, walking toward a nearby lake. With a faint smile, he offers a final thanks to the wooden sword he holds, leaving his rival utterly stunned by this bizarre behavior. Then in a single motion, he hurls the blade into the water. His tormentors immediately mock him, calling him a coward for abandoning his weapon. This rival charges forward, screaming that this act is a disgrace to all swordsmen, but Oscar stands firm, his back turned as he embraces a new path. He declares that he will never swing a sword again, deciding to instead. A confident smirk crosses his face as he announces his true ambition, to become a mage. An answer that only enrages his rival, who lunges forward for a final decisive strike. Oscar's eyes narrow as he anticipates the rival's incoming attack. His opponent unleashes a flurry of aura-enhanced strikes, moving like a blur. But the powerful blow is stopped just inches from Oscar's throat. Our boy calmly explains that such a simple technique will never work on him. Enraged, the rival screams that a sword must be an extension of the body, launching another desperate attack while yelling not to be underestimated. But Oscar admits he is treating this like a simple sparring session with a student. This utter dismissal leaves his opponent screaming in frustration as every hit misses. With a single hand, Oscar easily halts the rival's charge mid-swing, then slams a wooden training post into the ground, pinning the boy beneath it. Trapped and defeated, the rival can only curse at him from the dirt. Oscar simply looks down, his expression a mix of pity and resolve. His opponent questions why he'd give up his advantage against an unarmed foe. As the other students rush to help their friend, Oscar turns away from the scene. He declares this should be enough to stop them from ever picking a fight again. He recalls his father forcing him to awaken his sword aura in his past life. So this time, he is determined to awaken his mana first to avoid that same fate. Oscar ventures deep into a sun-dappled forest, searching for a quiet place to begin, when a sudden memory of being caught by surprise flashes through his mind. A time he sought a secluded spot, worried that someone might see him. He remembers a conversation where a swordsman asked a mage how magic actually works, explaining that while warriors use spirit, the method of mages was a mystery to him. This woman in green listened with a thoughtful expression, understanding his curiosity. And after a moment's pause beside her garden, she found the perfect analogy. She explained that for a mage, using magic is simply like using a watering can, a comparison that left the swordsman completely baffled by its simplicity. This mage detailed how invisible mana is drawn from the air through their bodies, then poured into a specific formula to activate a spell, causing flowers to bloom. Back in the present, Oscar sits meditating on a rock, focusing on that memory. Centering himself on her words, knowing that mana fills the very air around him, Oscar sits peacefully on a rock, beginning his first attempt at meditation. His first step is simple: he must learn to perceive the mana all around him. A swordsman, he recalls, uses all 5 senses to survive countless brushes with death, and though he is no longer a swordsman, his honed senses as a sword saint remain. Believing this is the key, he closes his eyes and expands his awareness, attempting to perceive the vibrant life of the forest without using his sight. When suddenly swirling ribbons of energy appear around him, he is finally seeing mana. His eyes snap open in utter astonishment at the beautiful, sparkling sight. Overjoyed with his success, he realizes the next step is to draw it in. But his celebration is cut short by a daunting question: how does he do that? Just then, his heightened senses pick up a strange presence nearby. A small pebble tumbles down a nearby cliff, drawing his full attention. His focus shifts to a dark patch of woods where the energy feels distinctly wrong, and trusting his instincts, he cautiously steps forward to investigate the disturbance. He ventures deeper into the unsettling darkness, ready for whatever he might find. Venturing into the forest, Oscar feels an unsettling quiet, sensing no signs of life at all. Suddenly, a massive force slams into the ground, forcing him to leap out of the way. He looks up from the dust cloud, his eyes widening at the unexpected sight. Before him stands an enormous stone golem, a creature of pure magic and rock. Oscar questions why such a powerful construct would be in this remote place. Just then, another shadow falls from the sky, catching his attention instantly. A red-haired woman lands with purpose, standing between him and the golem. She demands to know what business he has trespassing in her workshop. Her eyes glow with menace as she accuses him of trying to steal her research. Still on the ground, Oscar watches her, processing this sudden and hostile encounter. This woman issues a stern warning, telling him to choose his next words carefully. He recalls stories of her exploits on countless battlefields in the harsh northern regions. A legendary hero who commanded golems and stood against entire hordes of monsters. This is Isabel, the renowned mage of creation of life, a master of her craft. And now Oscar finds himself her prisoner, never imagining he would meet her like this. Chained and kneeling, Oscar is interrogated by Isabel, who demands his allegiance. Her glowing spear serves as a sharp warning, implying death if he does not answer. A binding circle flares to life beneath him, trapping Oscar completely on the stone floor. But our boy calmly asks her to wait, trying to de-escalate the hostile situation. He explains that he never resisted capture because he is not her enemy at all, a statement that gives the legendary mage a moment of thoughtful pause. She quickly dismisses his plea, however, preparing a fatal spell for the nameless mage. With a grin, Oscar cheekily corrects her that he is not actually a mage yet, a bizarre confession that leaves the renowned mage genuinely surprised by his audacity. Calling his excuse pathetic, she places a hand on his head to read his mana directly, and Oscar's eyes widen as he feels the overwhelming surge of her immense power. This powerful mage probes his entire body, searching for any trace of magical ability. She discovers the shocking truth in an instant. He has no mana circuits whatsoever. Suddenly, the interrogation is over as she calmly states she understands his situation now. Isabel then sips her tea, clarifying that she still will not be apologizing for the hostility. Isabel explains she is a new professor at the academy where everyone already treats her like an enemy. Oscar is stunned to learn the legendary mage is now a teacher, seeing a golden opportunity to finally learn how to draw mana from her. He calls out to Isabel as she sips her tea, a plan forming in his mind. And standing before her, Oscar prepares to make a desperate request, asking her to teach him the one thing he needs most, how to absorb mana. But Isabel flatly refuses, stating she has no interest in weak or incompetent men. Her dismissal stings, but he knows he cannot simply give up and go home. A haunting memory of his bloody death flashes before his eyes, fueling his resolve, and with renewed determination, a single bead of sweat rolls down his face. As a golem servant pours her another cup of tea, Oscar notices something. Carefully observing the construct as a new idea begins taking shape, his heightened senses perceiving a strange flow of energy within the golem. He points out the golem is acting strangely, but she dismisses it as a plea for attention. When suddenly the golem's hand begins to tremble violently, spilling tea everywhere. This golem suddenly malfunctions, its arm swinging down toward Isabel's head. Oscar cries out her name in a panic, fearing the absolute worst. But the construct was only trying to pour tea, and he rushes to her side. Its shoulder sparks with unstable energy, a clear sign of a critical error. Isabel diagnoses the problem instantly, noting a clogged circuit in the golem. Just as she moves to fix it, Oscar grabs her arm to stop her, leaving the legendary mage stunned, demanding to know how he saw the malfunction. He calmly explains the flow of mana looked unnatural, prompting her disbelief. Oscar recalls the other mage who once told him that mana was invisible to all, yet he confidently confirms that he can indeed see it. This revelation shocks Isabel, who now understands how he bypassed her barrier. She wonders if this power comes from his past as a swordsman or something more. Our boy considers the possibility that this is the talent he was told about. With newfound resolve, he announces that he has finally made a decision. And Isabel smirks, offering to teach him how to properly wield his gift. Isabel declares she has no interest in weak men, questioning his worth, but with a sly smile she admits he has finally caught her attention. Oscar accepts her proposition with a confident smirk of his own, and their handshake solidifies a new, unexpected partnership. Her golems present a chalkboard as she explains he has the wrong idea about mana. Eager to learn, he asks how to make the energy flow through his circuits. She illustrates that mana needs a magic formula to be contained, like tea needs a cup. Confused by the analogy, Oscar asks what exactly this cup is. Isabel then reveals a magic paper inscribed with a spell, a common academy tool. He excitedly asks what kind of magic it is, but she tells him he must succeed to find out. His instructions are simple: focus his internal power and pour it into the formula. Holding the paper, Oscar eagerly promises he will give it his all. She watches him, knowing this task takes even the best students at least a month, still wondering if his supposed talent is actually the real deal. And as he kneels to begin, she revises her estimate down to half that time. Oscar concentrates, sensing a new power beginning to circulate throughout his body. He compares this feeling to forging his sword aura, turning his focus completely inward. Within his mind's eye, he visualizes his own energy gathering with intense concentration. And as particles of light swirl around him, a confident smile crosses his face. His hand presses down on the magic paper, causing the formula to flare with brilliant energy. In that instant, his eyes widen as the truth of mana dawns on him. Realizing the energy was already there, waiting to be activated by his will. Suddenly, the room explodes with magical fireworks, a stunning display of his success. A feat compared to a child learning to walk, a process of falling and rising again. Isabel whips around, her expression one of complete and utter shock at the sight. She recalls the old saying that the greatest mages learn mana the fastest, while Oscar simply stands and watches the beautiful light show he created. This legendary mage approaches him, her mind reeling from what she just witnessed, completely unable to believe he mastered the basics in a single attempt. Her thoughts then flash back to his strange ability to see the unnatural flow of mana. Isabel wonders if seeing mana is the only reason, but quickly dismisses the thought, because whatever the cause, her inner monologue concludes one thing is certain. This boy, Oscar, is undoubtedly the real deal. Suddenly, the magic paper erupts into a brilliant display of fireworks, a clear success, and Isabel excitedly calls out to get his attention. Rushing over to praise him for activating a formula on his first try, an unprecedented feat. But Oscar turns to her, his expression grim, stating that this is not good enough. He explains with a serious look that the magic he created simply was not beautiful. A memory of a woman and child watching a dazzling display flashes through his mind. To a stunned Isabel, he insists that magic should be special, and this spell felt wrong. Kneeling down, our boy points directly at the magic formula on the paper, explaining the mana flow felt off, just like with her malfunctioning golem. Oscar then asks for her opinion, leaving the legendary mage completely speechless. Clenching his fist, he realizes it is not just about becoming a mage. Instead, he declares with burning passion his true goal, to wield perfect, beautiful magic. Isabel looks surprised, casually suggesting he can just rewrite the formula if he wants. A revelation that electrifies Oscar, who grabs her arm in a burst of excitement. And he eagerly asks how a person even begins to write a magic formula from scratch. Elsewhere, a stern-looking man in a red scarf walks down a sunlit corridor, his expression grim, hinting at some serious business at hand. This man approaches three defeated students who wonder how their opponent got so strong, and one of them looks up in terror as their master arrives, demanding an explanation. This other two quickly try to dismiss the situation, insisting it is nothing serious at all, but their master's cold gaze silences them as he sternly repeats his question. Cowering under his intense pressure, the two students are clearly terrified to answer, until one of them finally steps forward to explain what happened to their unmoving master. This master listens intently, his expression giving nothing away as he processes the news, finding it hard to believe that Oscar was the one who defeated his students so thoroughly. This student understands, promising to ensure the others are ready for training tomorrow. And as his students bow in submission, the master watches them with a cold, calculating gaze. A caped swordsman looks to the sky, declaring that the time has finally come, and with a confident smirk, he decides to grant someone the power of sword aura. Meanwhile, in a vast library, Oscar's training with Isabel has clearly begun, as he marvels at the depth of magic formulas while she stresses the need for knowledge. Impressed by his instincts, she offers to lend him any of her books to study, generously telling him to take as many as he likes since they contain all her wisdom. But in a flash, he is gone from his spot, leaving her momentarily confused. He reappears with a towering stack of books, cheekily asking to borrow just one more, leaving Isabel stunned as he reminds her she gave him permission to take them all. A small sound of surprise escapes her, clearly impressed by his sheer audacity. But Oscar then turns serious, offering a grave warning about his own nature. He explains that he is now a mage with mana flowing through his circuits, prompting Isabel to caution him about the dangers of using sword aura. This memory of the man who granted him that power flashes through his mind. As Oscar finishes the warning, if a mage uses sword aura, they will die. A lone rider approaches Eisen village as the sun begins to set, revealing Oscar's heavy expression, weighed down by the purpose of his return. He finds his father frail and bedridden, greeting him after a long absence, and the old man weakly acknowledges his son's presence, calling out his name. As Oscar kneels, his father beckons him closer for a private word. A memory surfaces of his father praising his talent long ago, yet insisting it was right to force him to abandon the path of magic back then. This phantom touch on his chest recalls a pivotal, painful moment from his youth, when his father stood over him, sealing his fate as a swordsman instead of a mage. In this memory, a sealed invitation represents his only chance to reclaim his dream, and he stands determined before the imposing gates of his family home. His silent plea is for permission to finally enroll in the Magic Academy, finding the stern patriarch waiting for him in a dimly lit hall. This man's cold question hangs in the air as Oscar approaches. But our boy meets his gaze, declaring he is here for a signature on his invitation. A tense standoff unfolds between Oscar and his father in a dimly lit hall. His father questions the sudden confrontation, dismissively holding out a document. This man's eyes widen with a mix of anger and disbelief at his son's request, but Oscar explains he needs a signature to enroll in the Magic Academy. This news pains his father, who reminds him he was born to be a swordsman. Oscar calmly recalls a time he confessed his dream of wanting to use magic, a desire his father seems to have brushed aside completely, now calling his son's ambition nothing more than childish nonsense. He places a hand on Oscar's chest, forcefully rejecting his chosen path, a gesture that physically and emotionally pushes his son away. With a heavy heart, Oscar seems to accept his father's harsh judgment, when suddenly raw magical energy erupts from his body, shocking the older man. His father recoils, demanding to know what kind of joke this is, completely stunned that his son has somehow already learned to wield mana. Oscar simply states this was the only way he could ever convince him. His father demands to know what Oscar is trying to convince him of, his patience clearly worn thin. A flashback reveals Oscar's incredible talent, defeating swordsmen without even using sword aura. Though Oscar claims to understand, his father furiously insists he does not, demanding he listen. He passionately argues that the path of a swordsman is the only way for Oscar to succeed. Our boy concedes his father's judgment is likely correct, but there is a clear hesitation. A memory of a happy family surfaces as he explains that success does not guarantee happiness. This two stand opposed in the vast hall, their conflicting ideals creating an unbridgeable gap. With a hand to his face, his father finally relents, claiming he now understands the situation. But a dark aura surrounds him as he ominously decides there is still time to fix his son. He reminds Oscar of the fatal rule: mixing two powers in his circuits means certain death, threatening to beat the stubbornness out of him if he continues down this dangerous path. And as he draws his blade, he promises that one day Oscar will thank him for this intervention. Oscar's gaze hardens as he coldly declares that day of thanks will never arrive, father. A tragic memory flashes, his father dying of old age and Oscar dying a bloody death alone, confirming his grim prediction as he reflects on how that promised day never came. His father offers a scabbard, ordering Oscar to retrieve his sword for a duel. With a challenging smirk, the man declares he will at least wait for that. Oscar's eyes narrow with a flash of newfound resolve. But he calmly presents a letter, reminding his father that he is a mage now. He holds up the official-looking letter, its red wax seal unbroken, and to prove his point, Oscar summons a brilliant burst of fire in his palm, leaving his father, the legendary sword master, completely stunned by the display. Our boy then challenges Sword Master Brian directly, daring him to beat the magic out of him. Brian warns him that withstanding his pressure does not grant him the right to be arrogant, igniting his blade with a menacing purple sword aura as a final warning. This sword swings for his neck, only to be stopped by Oscar's bare glowing hand, who confidently explains he can now read every move made with sword aura. A memory surfaces of his father training him relentlessly as a child, this reflection of that harsh training still visible in his determined eyes, as their opposing energies clash in a brilliant flash of purple and white light. Brian unleashes a devastating slash of sword aura, which Oscar narrowly evades. Our boy admits that as a swordsman, he modeled himself after his father more than anyone, and he leaps back, acknowledging that the legendary sword master lives up to his reputation. His father is stunned, realizing Oscar is dodging without any enhancement from sword aura, finally conceding that his son's talent with the blade is undeniably the real thing. He then offers a dangerous wager, demanding Oscar accept his sword aura right now. Oscar questions if this is what his father meant by beating the magic out of him, taunting him with a smirk, asking if he is just supposed to break because he cannot be defeated. This sword master calls him a foolish boy, his patience clearly wearing thin from the defiance. But Oscar calmly explains that just as talent is what matters most to his father, there is something he himself refuses to give up on, holding up a strange object. Brian scoffs, sarcastically asking if he is referring to his commitment to the sword, only for Oscar to proudly declare that the object in his hand is a magic staff, a simple tool meant for beginners but a symbol of his new path nonetheless. Recalling Isabel's lesson that just as he lacks magical knowledge, his father is equally ignorant. Oscar confidently tells his father he has no way of knowing what is coming next, but Brian retorts that Oscar is the one who is truly clueless. With a powerful swing, the swordmaster brings his blade down upon his son, yet Oscar's eyes glow with an ethereal light, analyzing the attack's trajectory. He sees not just one attack, but every possible move his father could make, allowing him to sidestep the deadly blow with almost supernatural ease, leaving the legendary swordsman completely stunned by his son's impossible speed. With a focused gaze, our boy prepares to cast his own spell, touching a quill to his father's chest and unleashing a wave of pure magic. A memory surfaces of the very first magic he ever witnessed as a child, a dazzling display that became the dream he has chased his entire life. This spell he longed for in his imagination, now made real, sparks Spissa. This magic is intrinsically linked to a faint, warm memory of his mother, a sight that leaves his father utterly speechless, his eyes wide with disbelief. As the beautiful, harmless sparks of light burst from his chest in a brilliant shower, Brian reels back in shock, stunned by the spell Oscar just used. In a blur of motion, Oscar zips past his stunned father, eyes glowing. This sword master questions if it was a distraction, quickly realizing it was much more. As his own sword is sent flying through the air against the full moon, it lands point down in the floor, with Oscar now holding a small knife. This polished blade reflects the tense standoff between father and son. Oscar explains he knew his father would attack based on presence alone, a realization dawning on Brian that the magic was just a feint to disarm him. This tactic, Oscar states, is something he learned from his father's own teachings. Leaving the legendary swordsman looking on with a mix of frustration and defeat, Brian finally concedes, admitting he can vouch for his son's talent with a sword, but then poses a critical question: who will vouch for his talent in magic? Our boy calmly replies he is only demonstrating the path he intends to walk, turning the question back on his father, asking if he needed approval for his path. A distant memory reveals Brian himself once questioned which path was right for him. A memory surfaces of his father telling his pregnant mother their child would be a talented swordsman, but his mother playfully teases that he only chose the sword because it looked cool, before declaring with a gentle smile that their child will choose their own path. Back in the present, Brian admits he always expected Oscar to become a sword saint, leaving Oscar caught off guard by the sudden, almost regretful change in his demeanor. His father then turns his back, walking away as Oscar calls out in confusion. This academy invitation falls to the ground, a clear and final rejection of his dream. Stunned, Oscar clutches a quill, realizing his father will never give his blessing, and Brian smirks coldly, telling his son that he will not be able to sign with that pen. Meanwhile, at the majestic Magic Academy, preparations for a new year are underway. Where an official reviews student files, noting this year's applicants seem quite promising. His colleague adds that several high-profile nobles and even the princess are enrolling, while another instructor boasts they have already mastered their family's heirloom magic. A masked figure silently reviews a document, seemingly lost in their own thoughts, until a red-haired man asks if something is wrong, noticing their unusual silence. This masked official smirks, delighted that the new students all possess St. Clair's bloodlines. Elsewhere, Oscar puts quill to paper with a confident smirk, his path now clear. 6 months later, Brian waits for his son outside the guild dormitory, sword at his side, his stern expression softening into a rare, knowing smile as Oscar approaches. This time has passed in a flash, a necessary period of preparation. And now Oscar stands before his father, ready for his new life. Brian reminds him that just as he studied the sword, others have dedicated their lives to magic, offering a final piece of advice to never let himself be broken on his chosen path. His father looks away, insisting he will be fine despite any unstated worries, but Oscar just smiles, cheekily replying that no one is scarier than him. A gentle smile crosses Brian's face as he finally seems to understand. With that, his father turns to depart, leaving Oscar to walk his path alone. Oscar looks down at the signed letter of acceptance, his dream finally within reach. Turning his back as he walks onto the academy grounds, his new life starting now. A look of pure determination on his face, he has finally arrived at the Magic Academy. With a sudden creak, a door swings open, flooding the darkness with brilliant light, revealing the majestic Kirk National Magic Academy in all its splendor. A place bustling with magical life, from students casting spells to others soaring on brooms. Oscar takes it all in, noting how different this vibrant world is from the rigid Sword Academy, his curiosity immediately piqued by the strange, gnome-like creatures roaming the grounds. A familiar voice warns him not to get distracted or he will be late for enrollment paperwork, and he turns to find Isabel waiting for him with a knowing smirk. She playfully asks if he has been slacking, but Oscar confidently assures her he has grown stronger, a claim she is eager to test, challenging him to surprise her once more. Looking around the bustling street, our boy asks where they need to go, and Isabel points him toward the first-class placement exam, much to his surprise. She explains the system. New students are divided into classes based on their mana aptitude, but above them all is a special group for the truly exceptional, the first class. This placement exam is designed specifically to weed out the weak and find true talent, which is exactly why Isabel tells a stunned Oscar that he should not take it. This red-haired woman explains that every student accepted is a total monster, clarifying they are all elites who have been raised around magic since childhood, but Oscar only sees this as an exciting chance to learn higher-level spells. His companion sighs in defeat, realizing his boundless optimism is unstoppable. So he simply invites her to see the Academy's talent for herself. They arrive in a courtyard where a crowd has gathered to watch an exam duel, where one applicant skillfully dodges attacks while conjuring orbs of water magic, which then burst with a powerful splash of controlled energy. A proctor in the crowd smiles, clearly impressed by the display of power. and Oscar observes the test, deducing the goal is to hit a target with a spell. He suddenly feels an intense gaze, sensing he is being watched by shadowy onlookers, when a voice from behind abruptly calls out to him. A silver-haired noble, Zazan of House Gyrosis, declares this is no place for a commoner, his eyes filled with disdain as he coldly demands Oscar leave at once. Oscar stands his ground, calmly stating he heard all new students could take this test. A white-haired student dismisses Oscar's words with a sneer as others mock him from behind. He recalls Isabel's warning, every student here is a monster raised on magic since birth. Our boy quickly understands this exclusive class is designed to shut out commoners. With a shove, the arrogant student tells Oscar to stay quiet and watch the exam. Another student takes their turn, channeling potent magic through a staff and vial. A smug grin crosses the rival's face while Oscar watches on with concern. Standing in the testing area, he boasts that Oscar will soon see the difference in their training. This student points forward, a complex magic circle glowing as he chants a powerful ice spell. In an instant, massive shards of ice erupt from the ground, a truly overwhelming display. Onlooking students are left completely speechless by the sheer scale of the magic. Peeking from cover, Oscar's eyes widen, taking in the incredible magical feat. Whispers spread through the crowd, identifying the mage from the famed Ice House Gyrosis. His rival looks down on Oscar, declaring that those without real magic are not welcome here. Our boy acknowledges the spell is incredible, a result of pure devotion to magic. Yet a small smile forms as he concludes that such power is ultimately a waste. This silver-haired noble glares, demanding to know what Oscar just said about his spell. Ignoring the noble's fury, Oscar walks right past him toward the testing grounds. He remembers his own path, the endless years of effort and the weight of his sword, now filled with confidence as he thanks the noble for this unexpected motivation. Laughter spreads through the crowd as they mock his simple staff, a mere beginner's pen, and his rival sneers, certain that aiming with such a basic tool is impossible. Confident in his own power, the noble questions Oscar's audacity after his perfect display. Standing before the glittering ice wall, an instructor assesses the powerful magic on display. A spell Zazan believes is flawless, a testament to the might of House Gyrosis. But the arrogant noble flinches in confusion, wondering what invisible force just struck him. An official with a staff and scroll watches the entire exchange with a calculating gaze. Noting to herself that this year's crop of students is indeed as good as rumored. In her mind, Zazan Gyrosis is already a lock for the top position among the new students, yet her expression shifts, a hint of curiosity breaking through her initial judgment. Her focus lands on Oscar, questioning what this mysterious boy has been doing this whole time. A rival student yells at Oscar, telling him to give up if he cannot even hit the target. Yet Oscar remains perfectly calm, showing no anxiety as he waits for the perfect moment. With a razor-sharp gaze, he analyzes the situation, his mind racing for a solution. He raises his quill as a conduit, causing the proctor to look on in utter disbelief. A brilliant magic circle ignites around him as he prepares to cast a simple fire bullet spell. In a flash, a single beam of fire zips across the courtyard, striking every target in its path. All 5 targets, each perfectly pierced, come crashing down to the ground, leaving the proctor stammering in shock at the impossible display of precision and speed. Onlookers murmur in confusion, noting he hit all 5 targets with just a basic spell. His rivals immediately mock him, declaring his weak spell a clear failure for this exam. Even the silver-haired noble from House Gyrosis looks on with disappointment, dismissing Oscar's entire performance as a complete waste of his time. Our boy turns to the proctor, innocently asking if his attempt means he failed the test. But she excitedly denies it, clarifying that hitting all 5 targets is an undeniable pass, a response that leaves Oscar looking genuinely surprised by the outcome. A stunned proctor questions Oscar's method, asking why he chose that approach. She wonders aloud why he did not just aim for the targets one by one, her eyes wide as she demands he not claim his incredible feat was just a fluke. Oscar reflects on the rival's impressive magic, admitting it was powerful but flawed, before calmly stating that using that much mana is simply a waste. This proctor is taken aback by his logic, repeating his words in disbelief. He explains that in a real battle against monsters, conserving mana is paramount, and with a look of understanding, she apologizes for questioning his strategy. Oscar simply turns and walks away, leaving the stunned crowd behind him. As the proctor's inner thoughts reveal her awe at his sharp eyes and incredible patience, noting his mana control was perfect, landing a simple spell with deadly precision, she realizes that more than anyone else there, he understands the true nature of a fight. As he walks on, Oscar notices the shadowy observers perched on the rooftops above. He realizes with a smirk that the proctor's magic made all the targets move on their own, and strides forward, excited to meet such a skilled mage right at enrollment. Oscar senses a presence behind him, calling out into the empty air. A voice responds, complimenting his sharp eyes for noticing the observer. As an old mage in a pointed hat formally introduces himself to the young student, This man reveals himself to be Balsami's, the headmaster of the entire academy. Stunned, Oscar quickly bows an apology, but the headmaster waves it off. His friendly demeanor is shattered when our boy recalls a different, more sinister presence. A brief, chilling vision of the hooded person he sensed watching him earlier. This headmaster snaps him out of it, offering a hand in greeting, and after a moment of hesitation, Oscar reaches out to shake it. Their hands meet in a seemingly simple gesture of introduction, but a jolt of energy sends a look of pure shock across Oscar's face. In an instant, a powerful vortex of wind magic erupts around him. With the headmaster's voice echoing from within the swirling gale, now floating above the ground, Balsami's wonders if it was instinct, not sight, that found him. Bracing against the magical torrent, Oscar demands to know if this is an assassination attempt. This headmaster scoffs from above, mocking Oscar's tiny quill as a weapon. With a powerful slam of his staff, Balsami's unleashes the full force of his magic, trapping Oscar inside a swirling vortex known as the Storm Prison. Our boy recognizes the powerful wind barrier, realizing there is no easy escape. Thinking fast, he touches the ground, igniting a complex fire magic circle, which erupts into a powerful pillar of flame aimed directly at the caster. From his vantage point, the headmaster looks down in surprise at the sudden counterattack, effortlessly deflecting the fiery blast with a swing of his ornate staff. He notes that since Oscar could not break the spell, he smartly targeted the user instead. A small, impressed smile forming on his face, acknowledging the boy's quick thinking. Leaving Oscar utterly confused, the wind prison suddenly dissipates around him, and he lands back on the cobblestone, still on guard as the magic fades away. Balsami's explains that if Oscar had not fought back with lethal intent, he would be dead now, prompting our boy to demand the true meaning behind this dangerous test. This headmaster reveals he wanted Oscar to experience the pressure put on those who stand out. This headmaster admits he underestimated Oscar's true strength, leading our boy to realize that standing out makes him a target. Balsami's confirms this, warning of extremists who despise talented commoners, and Oscar recalls their unforgiving creed against those who rise above their station. A chilling vision of a hooded fanatic reveals their hatred for his overwhelming talent, prompting Oscar to demand the identity of these dangerous people, his expression hardening as he presses the headmaster for the truth. But the old mage refuses, explaining that such knowledge would only put him in more danger, instead advising him to focus on gaining the power to protect himself within the academy. This words echo in Oscar's mind, a stark reminder of his new reality, as he realizes that if the headmaster had been a true enemy, he'd already be dead. A cold sweat breaks as the sheer difference in their power sinks in, and the headmaster watches him, letting the harsh lesson take root. Balsami's then touches a glowing pendant hanging from his neck, a strange artifact that immediately captures Oscar's full attention. This headmaster reveals a glowing pendant, asking if the mark of a magic saint is on Oscar's mind, and Oscar realizes with a jolt that it is a title of the highest rank, just like Sword Saint. A vision flashes through his mind, pitting the two legendary titles against one another. Floating down to the ground, the headmaster announces he has a gift for the young student, placing a small golden badge in Oscar's hand as a token of recognition. Balsami's warns him not to lose it, promising its future use before vanishing in a swirl of wind. Our boy is left in awe of the headmaster's flawless and untraceable mana control. But looking at the badge, a new resolve hardens his expression. He cannot just be impressed, as he recalls his original goal in this new life was simply to study magic and find peace. A dark memory of his death resurfaces, however, along with a chilling possibility. If a magic saint was among his killers, he must now surpass the sword saint he once was. Inside the academy hall, whispers already spread about the commoner who passed the first-class exam. But Zazen scoffs at the news, convinced such a pathetic student will be weeded out soon. Unaware of the gossip, Oscar walks through a doorway into the first-class lecture hall, where he finds his arrogant rival already seated, disdain clear on his face. Zazen's eyes widen in utter disbelief, a silent shock running through him. From the stands, he stares down as Oscar stands below, a different person entirely. This noble cannot comprehend it, wondering who this new challenger truly is. As Oscar walks on, leaving Zazen to question what could have possibly changed him, a memory surfaces of the headmaster's advice to gain the strength to protect himself. Oscar then dedicated himself to training, meditating as raw mana swirled around him. This training was simple: repeatedly release energy to gradually expand his magical capacity. After countless hours, he looks out at a new dawn with renewed purpose. Realizing he needs more than just raw power, he seeks true combat experience. His training session ends with a jolt of clarity, his path now clear. With a clenched fist, he prepares to leave, his resolve hardened like steel. For the first time in his life, he feels an overwhelming desire to grow stronger, which brings him back to the present, facing down the same arrogant nobles. Zazen is left speechless, still trying to process the change in that guy. But Oscar simply meets his gaze, letting his quiet confidence say everything. Zazen glares from the stands, his fellow nobles utterly baffled by Oscar's arrival. While from below, Oscar notes his rival's presence in the same first-class hall, but his attention is suddenly drawn to a quiet girl sitting among the students. Just then, she accidentally drops a beautifully decorated bookmark onto the floor, and before she can react, a gloved hand swiftly picks it up for her. Oscar approaches her desk, politely offering the lost item back to its owner, who accepts it with a bright smile and a flurry of heartfelt thanks. He cannot help but smile back, observing her genuine appreciation for the flowery design, leaving the girl flustered as a vision of a kind-looking witch flashes behind her. He introduces himself as Oscar, and she shyly replies that her name is Lily Lowell. Taking his seat, Oscar glances around the room, sensing the lecture is about to begin, when a powerful voice suddenly echoes through the hall, startling all the students. They search for the source as a streak of golden magic whips through the air, sending books and papers flying in a chaotic whirlwind around the classroom. A woman appears in a flash of light, introducing herself as Ruth, their new instructor. Inside the lecture hall, Oscar recognizes the teacher from the entrance exam addressing the class. With a confident smirk, she announces that practical lessons will begin the following week. This lesson is revealed to be field training against actual monsters, sparking Oscar's interest. He clenches his fist in anticipation, eager for the chance to gain real combat experience. To balance the teams, she instructs the students to form 5-person parties for the training. Confused students murmur amongst themselves, wondering if she means raw spell power. But she corrects them, explaining it is about their circuit performance or their body's mana capacity. A student beside Oscar asks how such a thing is measured, voicing the class's curiosity. And the teacher simply offers a knowing smile, hinting she is already prepared for that question. A massive glowing magic circle appears above them as she reveals the measurement is already complete. Suddenly, glowing spheres of light materialize above every student's head, catching them by surprise. This girl next to Oscar stares up in shock at the glowing orb hovering just above her. As the instructor explains, the sphere's brightness represents their total mana reserves. Several students, including the nobles, display impressively bright orbs of light above them, and after noting a few are at mage class level, her gaze shifts directly toward Oscar. A strange spell is cast over Oscar, leaving him to wonder about its true purpose. Meanwhile, the nobles mock his commoner status, certain no one will ever team up with him. Oscar dismisses their whispers, knowing he has far more important things to focus on. But a sudden tap on his shoulder breaks his concentration, catching him completely off guard. It is a kind-faced girl with glasses who unexpectedly offers him a spot in her party. She smiles, explaining that anyone who appreciates flowers surely cannot be a bad person. Her offer, however, comes with a condition: they must get approval from someone named Levin first. This name hangs in the air as Oscar turns to see who this Levin might be, finding a red-haired noble who scoffs at the very idea of letting this guy join. With a calm demeanor, Oscar politely asks for the chance to prove his worth to them, and Levin rises to his feet, a tense silence falling as the two students face off. He sneers at the notion of a noble's duty being to protect the weak like Oscar, before agreeing with a smirk, but only if Oscar accepts the role of their bag carrier. As the newly formed party walks away, other students continue to gossip from a distance, but Oscar and his new ally move forward together, ignoring the judgmental stares behind them. A kind student tells Oscar not to worry, explaining the skill gap is natural for nobles. Walking through the academy halls, she asks how long he has been studying magic, and Oscar casually reveals he has only been training for about 6 months with a teacher. His answer stops the girl in her tracks, her expression one of pure shock. She cannot believe her ears, stammering in disbelief at his impossible progress. Oscar simply looks back, unaware of the profound impact his words just had. Meanwhile, a professor with light purple hair strides purposefully down the corridor. This is Professor Ruth, her gaze sharp and focused as she continues on her way, until her path is blocked by Zazan, who asks if she needs something from him. This noble immediately questions why a commoner like Oscar is in the first-class section, scoffing at his pathetic mana and insisting he cannot even use proper magic. With a clenched fist, Zazan declares that such an unpolished student will soon be left behind. But the professor just smiles, clarifying that by commoner, he must mean Oscar, her expression turning serious as she prepares to challenge Zazan's entire assumption. She reveals it has only been 6 months since Oscar awakened, leaving Zazan utterly stunned. Professor Ruth calmly tells Zazan that Oscar will grow, perhaps even surpassing him soon. She then takes a deliberate step forward, continuing her pointed explanation, reminding him the field training exists precisely to polish students like the one he scorns. Elsewhere, his new ally explains that most nobles already have Megasteer mana from childhood, a rank just below Archmage on the official magic hierarchy, leaving Oscar to process this. And he notes internally that Megasteer is the standard for fighting monsters, but the girl excitedly insists that Oscar is the truly amazing one here, grabbing him as she exclaims that reaching Apprentice Tier in 6 months is unheard of. This makes Oscar wonder if this is his true talent, as she calls his progress abnormal. Changing the subject, he asks about her relationship with the arrogant noble Levin. and she explains that Levin's family is a high noble house with a long and respected tradition. His house is so powerful that other noble families seek their protection and follow them. So while Levin is abrasive, she assures Oscar he has real skill and will protect the party. Oscar thinks to himself that being protected is the last thing he wants from this experience. Out in a clearing, the students gather as the instructors prepare for the field training to begin. Professor Ruth begins to explain the details of their field training exercise, revealing their task is to survive one night in a forest filled with monsters. Oscar listens intently, recognizing the similarity to his practical entrance exam. Each team leader is given a magic scroll containing a barrier and a flare spell. Some students dismiss the danger, believing they can simply use it if attacked. But Ruth adds a harsh condition: any team using the scroll will be demoted. The students gasp in shock, the casual atmosphere instantly turning to dread, and Oscar's party realizes just how high the stakes are for their first-class status. Levin, however, smirks at Oscar, confidently stating failure is not an option, boasting that as the noblest of nobles, he will protect them all. As the party prepares to move out, Levin begins to issue his orders. Starting by dropping an enormous heavy pack onto the ground, he then points at Oscar, demanding he carry the luggage for the entire group. This girl with glasses protests the unfair load, but Oscar calmly agrees to the deal. Levin smirks, pleased that Oscar seems to know his place in the party. As the party ventures into the woods, Levin warns Oscar not to drag them down. But moments later, the noble himself stumbles on the uneven ground, his friends rushing to his side. Oscar calmly offers a hand, pointing out the difficult terrain with a knowing smile. But Levin, humiliated, grits his teeth in fury and slaps the offered hand away. This noble furiously tells Oscar to shut up, his pride completely wounded. Shoving past them, Levin nearly knocks the girl over, but Oscar steadies her, and she cannot help but wonder why he remains so completely unfazed by the outburst. Looking around, Oscar notes the strange absence of monsters, suspecting the Academy's influence. When a sudden glint of magical energy catches his eye, his senses instantly on high alert. This air around them begins to shimmer with an unseen power, a strange phenomenon. Realizing the danger, Oscar screams for the party to stop, warning them not to move forward. But Levin scoffs at the warning, angrily questioning who Oscar is to give orders. Oscar recognizes the strange sensation. It feels just like a powerful barrier he has felt before. Realizing too late, they have walked into a massive magic circle that manipulates space itself. And the trap springs shut, its crimson light shattering the air around the terrified students. This world shatters around Levin, who cries out in utter confusion. But Oscar remains calm, his gaze sharp as he assesses the sudden chaos. Taking command, he orders his new party members to raise their staffs and prepare for anything. And the fragments of their old reality fall away, revealing an unfamiliar, dense forest. This girl with glasses nervously confirms their surroundings have completely changed. As the group stands bewildered in the eerie woods, strange lights floating in the air. A nearby tree bears a stone marker, etched with the Roman numeral for 5. She realizes with dawning horror they have been sent to the 5th training ground. Another student panics, questioning why they are in a location meant for upperclassmen. Oscar suspects the magic circle that brought them here was some kind of trap. One of the nobles suggests using magic paper to call for help in this emergency. But as Levin holds the scroll, it suddenly tears itself apart in his hands. Their only means of communication crumbles into nothing, leaving them completely stranded. Levin scoffs at their panic, dismissing it as a forgotten transfer circle the Academy missed. Turning to Oscar with a smirk, he declares that this unexpected situation is a perfect opportunity. He declares that clearing this advanced area will only increase his value to the Academy, and confidently leads the way, his followers praising the heir of House Aldrich. Worried for his safety, the girl with glasses urges Oscar to stay close to her. But our boy simply follows behind, quietly observing the unfolding situation. Suddenly, his senses flare, Oscar's eyes widening as he detects an unseen threat. From the shadows of the forest, a pack of monstrous wolves with glowing eyes emerges. A massive three-eyed wolf bears its fangs, its scarred face a mask of pure malice. Levin just grins, welcoming the danger as a chance to prove his strength, while Oscar pulls out a strange feather quill, preparing his own magic. He knows this is a rare chance to gain real combat experience and test a spell. But as he steps forward, Levin shouts in surprise, questioning his movement. This noble scoffs, ordering the commoner to stay back and watch how a real noble fights, leaving Oscar to silently ponder what that truly means. Without warning, a massive paw with razor-sharp claws slams into the ground, and the entire wolf pack lunges forward, descending upon the overconfident noble. Levin raises his staff as a massive golem's fist descends upon him, but he quickly summons an earth shield, a golden barrier forming just in time. This shield manifests as a wall of rock, holding back several attacking shadow wolves, and with their defense holding, Levin shouts the signal for his party to counterattack. His allies immediately unleash their magic, one casting a wind spell and the other a water attack. their combined lances of energy blasting through the monsters in a coordinated assault. Oscar observes their flawless teamwork, noting how they split offense and defense perfectly. Realizing this is not just noble training, it is the strategy of any skilled mage party. But their confidence wavers as Levin notes the sheer number of monsters they face, and a wolf suddenly breaches their defense, leaping over the wall toward an exposed mage. The student panics, realizing his fatal mistake as the beast closes in for the kill. At the same time, another wolf targets the girl with glasses, leaving her completely vulnerable. Levin grits his teeth in frustration, unable to protect everyone at once. This massive beast looms over her, its glowing eyes fixed on its cornered prey, and a three-eyed alpha pounces from above, ready to deliver the final blow. Levin unleashes a powerful fire spell, shouting its name into the night. His flame blade slams into a monster, saving the girl with glasses from its lunge. As the vicious wolf-like beast snarls, its fangs bared in fury, but Oscar had already moved to shield his ally from the sudden danger, and she thanks him for the save while he calmly confirms the threat is over. With the battle concluded, Levin stands proudly over the defeated pack of wolves. A new chapter in their ordeal begins under the title of the series. And later that night, the party rests by a campfire, with Oscar sitting apart from the others. Levin smirks, telling Oscar he is lucky to witness a noble's skill firsthand. To his surprise, Oscar agrees, complimenting their flawless coordination and magic use, which triggers a memory for Oscar of his past self who only desired individual strength. He reflects on his goal to surpass his master, wondering if this is the right path. But his thoughts are interrupted as the kind girl with glasses approaches him, offering him a drink while admitting she was the one who ended up needing protection. But Oscar dismisses her concern with a simple thanks, sharing a quiet moment together. Oscar asks his ally about the defensive magic she used, questioning its variable power. Levin scoffs at the question, stating it is common sense that spells are stronger up close. With a sneer, he dismisses Oscar as a typical commoner for his lack of basic knowledge. This girl with glasses tries to explain gently, detailing how mana dissipates over distance. But Oscar's mind races, realizing there must be more to it than simple proximity. He wonders if there is a way to fundamentally boost a spell's effect, regardless of range. Flustered by his sharp question, she admits her explanation might have been too simplistic. A knowing smile plays on Oscar's lips as he pieces together a deeper truth. His eyes widen with a sudden, profound realization about the nature of magic. "I see," he murmurs, leaving his new friend completely bewildered by his insight. She calls out his name, sensing the sudden change in his focus and understanding. He muses on the idea of strengthening the power that fills the container itself, making a shocking connection between this concept and the legendary sword aura. Meanwhile, a masked figure observes the party through a glowing, scrying circle from afar. This heir of House Aldrich then activates a sinister red magic circle, preparing to make their move. This mysterious observer is revealed, a sinister man with an eye patch and a cruel smile. Before a demonic shadow, he muses that he'd prefer his target keep a low profile.